I think this ChiComs stuff people are talking about, the NBA, because that's sports, I think this is such a teachable moment, what is happening here, and it's gotten so obfuscated. Let's start at the beginning on this. No, let's not. I want to make an observation before starting at the beginning. The beginning is the tweet that the general manager of the Houston Rockets sent out, which was a totally harmless tweet showing support for freedom-loving people in Hong Kong pursuing freedom and democracy. And for that, he was shellacked by the ChiComs. The ChiComs then threatened the NBA, and the NBA originally buckled to it until they got the impression they were doing this all wrong, and now they're trying to have it both ways. But take a look at what's happened here, and I want to draw an analogy for you. We have the general manager of the Houston Rockets, Daryl Morey, on Friday, sending out a tweet that, in the normal ebb and flow, nobody should have ever noticed. They were just supporting the freedom-loving, democracy-loving seekers in Hong Kong who are being beaten up and threatened and imprisoned by the ChiComs. So he sends out this tweet, and all hell breaks loose. Half of the NBA players come down on this guy. How dare you criticize the Chinese? How dare you? The NBA executive bunch, their initial reaction was to come down on Daryl Morey, who is the general manager of the Houston Rockets. Now, what happened? The ChiComs blew up. And why? Because the ChiComs do not permit dissent. The ChiComs are, I don't care what anybody else thinks they are first and foremost command and control communists. There is no freedom in communism. There is no dissent in communism. There is no individuality or sovereignty in communism. You are nothing but a slave in communism. And if you stray, you will pay a price that may include costing you your life. So here we have, on the big scheme, in the big scheme of things, a small and mild little tweet about Hong Kong. And it has been turned into a gigantic and polarizing international issue. And you know who it reminds me of? It reminds me of the left in this country. It reminds me of the way they are enforcing speech codes with the threats of violence, the same level of intolerance as the ChiCom government. Doesn't matter what university you go to. In New York City, you can't say things like illegal alien or illegal immigrant without being chased down. Now, what we have in Hong Kong are people fighting a war against communism, and they've known this was coming since 1997. When the Brits, the Queen sent Prince Charles over there, had this gigantic ceremony turning control of Hong Kong back to the mainland ChiComs. Hong Kong, prior to that, was maybe one of the greatest examples of raw capitalism you could find on the planet. I went to Hong Kong in the late 1980s, and I came away stunned that it works. It is massively populated, overpopulated, based on the square mileage, living space, and so forth. It's two different cities, daytime and nighttime. Across the harbor in Kowloon, when you're looking at Hong Kong, it's a different existence. But tourism by night, business by day. Whole cities completely change once the sun goes down. I'm not talking about from capitalism to communism, just about what the what the purpose of life is. Everybody got fed. Everybody eats whatever they wanted to eat. There was plenty of food. Nobody wanted for anything. I mean, there was poverty. There's always that, no matter where you go on the planet. But it worked. And it was based on complete economic freedom. When you went into a store to buy, at that time, you want to buy an MP3 player, every purchase was a negotiation. Yeah, they had a sticker on it, but every purchase was a negotiation. You could negotiate these people down. Everything was in Hong Kong dollars. And so the salespeople were accustomed to talking to you. 220 Hong Kong, 220. So you'd have to get your calculator. What's 220 Hong Kong? After a while, you learn it. But no matter what it is, you're negotiating with them. Everything was a deal. And then the Brits announced they're going to turn it over. And I knew, and everybody knew this day, but it's only a matter of time. The ChiComs cannot let Hong Kong exist as it was. It's in direct conflict with mainland China. They can't permit it. There's no way the Chinese leaders are going to permit Hong Kong to remain what it was. So the day has come where they're not. The day has come where Hong Kong is going to become subsumed by the mainland. The difference is the people on Hong Kong are not like the people on the mainland. They're just not going to say, oh, okay, cower in the corners in fear and let it happen. They're pushing back. They're pushing back against communism. This is what ought to be happening in this country, pushing back against liberalism, pushing back against some of the crazy, radical liberalism that's infecting every institution in this country. The same kind of lack of tolerance of dissent, intolerance of even speech. I mean, corruption of so many institutions is occurring in this country because of the American left. It all happens under the guise of political correctness, and it's all based on the fact that minorities are oppressed. And so we got to let these changes happen because otherwise minorities will continue to be oppressed. It's nothing about any of that. It's an attack on capitalism. It's an attack on freedom. It's an attack on individualism that's being sponsored by international communists around the world who are funding and paying for this stuff. And issues like climate change or vehicles whereby they make it happen. So there's a great lesson for people to see here. And another great lesson, look at how quickly the National Basketball Association instinctively decided to come down on the side of the communist Chinese government and not the general manager of the Houston Rockets, who simply tweeted a little message of support for the freedom fighters in Hong Kong. That's all it took to create this massive controversy. Well, the NBA preseason's underway. There's a bunch of teams over there playing exhibition games, and ChiComs are threatening not to let the games go on. LeBron James has been told it's up to him to fix this. It's up to LeBron James to somehow bridge this controversy. The Chinese love basketball. You know why this is. They're short compared to NBA players. They admired, whoa, man, it's cool. They'd all be able to dunk, what have you. I mean, there's other reasons, too. It's an intriguing sport for some people, but the people of Hong Kong are fighting a war against communism. There are some people in this country who think that we're fighting the same battle here, but our battle is not so much with the government yet, but with individual leftists that run and have taken over institutions. But the ChiComs have shown everybody what they really are. They are dictatorial. They will shut down all dissent, and they will do it with violence if they have to. And that is what they really are. Despite comments, Biden and Bloomberg, these guys out there saying these are not dictators. Remember what Bloomberg said in the soundbite we had last week? That the president of China has to serve his constituents? Or he won't survive? Some of the most outrageous ignorance I've ever heard. And Biden's out there. Chinese are not a problem. I've been there. I've made deals with them and my son. Oh, wait. Well, they're not a threat. They're not our enemy. Come on, man. The Chinese are not our enemy. So now the NBA, the commissioner, Adam Silver, they're kind of backtracking now and trying to show support for Adam Morey, general manager of the Houston Rockets, while trying not to tick off the ChiComs because, and here come the usual complaints, the NBA buckled to money. They care more about money in a big market than they do civil and human rights. Yeah, well, this is the same NBA that threatened North Carolina and some other states with a boycott if they didn't open up bathrooms to anybody who wanted to use them. So the NBA had no trouble standing up to the government of North Carolina. The NBA was perfectly fine issuing boycott threats. Let the ChiComs speak up, and it's bend over and grab the ankles time, until people got offended by that, and now they're trying to have it both ways. But they don't want to give up the ChiCom market. 1.2 billion people who have increasing buying power. Let's take a brief break. We'll come back and resume with you on the phones after this.
Attention, Ditto Heads.
Okay, so let's see. The ChiComs bought off the Clintons. The ChiComs bought off the Bidens. The ChiComs bought off Bloomberg. And now they're in the process of buying off the NBA and all of the woke leftists out there. And you know why? Because the allure of ChiCom money is just too much for some people. Meanwhile, there's one guy waging a war with the ChiComs, trying to straighten out this imbalance, and that's Donald J. Trump.